Hello and welcome, my dear Zenior family. I'm Dr. Linda Rose, and today I want to speak directly from the heart about something we don't talk about enough. You see, as we grow older, many of us become more open, more honest, and more reflective. We share stories from our past, lessons we've learned, pain we've endured, and hopes we still hold dear. After 60, life tends to strip away the filters, doesn't it? We've been through enough to know what matters, and what doesn't. But here's the truth no one tells you. Not everything is meant to be shared. In fact, some things should be kept close to your chest, not because they're shameful, but because they're sacred. Yes, we all want to be heard. We want someone to understand our struggles, validate our sacrifices, or simply listen without judgment. But in doing so, we sometimes let the wrong people into the most vulnerable corners of our soul. And that's where trouble begins. Let me ask you this. Have you ever shared something personal, only to have it twisted, repeated, or used against you? Have you ever confided in someone, only to feel exposed, misunderstood, or judged afterward? If so, you're not alone. And that's exactly why this video matters. Because after a certain age, whether you're 60, 70, or beyond, your peace of mind becomes your greatest asset. Your time, your energy, your thoughts, your experiences, these are treasures you've earned through decades of living. And not everyone deserves access to them. Oversharing might feel innocent in the moment. But slowly, it chips away at your emotional boundaries. It gives others permission to walk into places they haven't earned the right to be in. And that's dangerous. Especially for seniors. Because let's be honest, people can be quick to take advantage of older adults. Whether it's emotionally, financially, or socially, there are always those who listen with the wrong intent. Some people don't want to support you. They want to study you, judge you, or even use your words to manipulate situations later. That's why today, I'm going to walk you through 9 very important things you should never share with others. No matter how close they seem, how sweet they sound, or how well they pretend to care. This isn't about secrecy. It's about self-respect. It's about protecting your dignity, your sanity, and your spiritual space. And let me be very clear, this is not about being cold or distant. It's about being wise. About knowing that just because someone is in your life doesn't mean they need to know everything about your life. When you learn to guard certain areas of your story, something powerful happens. You become stronger, calmer, and more self-aware. You no longer feel the need to explain or justify your decisions to anyone. You begin to live for peace, not approval. Now, some people might say, but Dr. Rose, isn't it healthy to open up? Yes, it is. But opening up should be like opening a door with a lock, not swinging it wide open for every passerby. There's a big difference between sharing for healing and oversharing out of habit. As a brain doctor, I've seen countless seniors struggle with emotional exhaustion, betrayal, and stress, all because they trusted the wrong people with the right information. So in this video, I'm not just going to give you a list. I'm going to walk you through each of the 9 things with deep care and insight. I'll explain why they're dangerous to share, how it affects your well-being, and how you can set gentle but firm boundaries, without feeling guilty or rude. Whether you're someone who wears your heart on your sleeve, or you're trying to become more private and guarded, this is for you. Because after 60, your greatest wealth is not your bank account or property. It's your inner peace. And peace begins with privacy. So grab a warm cup of tea, sit back, and stay with me till the very end. You might discover you've been giving away more than you thought, and it's time to take it back, gracefully. Let's protect your wisdom. Let's honor your journey. Let's start reclaiming your voice. Not by speaking louder, but by choosing when to speak, and when to stay silent. Let's begin. 1. Never share your financial details. My dear Zenior, let's start with one of the most common and quietly dangerous habits many seniors fall into. Sharing your financial details. Whether it's how much your pension is, what savings you have in the bank, the value of your property, or what you plan to leave behind in your will. This information should remain strictly private. And let me explain why. When people know what you have, they begin to change. Sometimes, subtly. Other times, drastically. Suddenly, you're not just you anymore. You're a walking wallet, a bank account, a source of future inheritance. And even the people you love, yes, even family, can start viewing you through the lens of entitlement, manipulation, or quiet expectation. Now you might say, "But Dr. Rose, I only talk about my finances with those I trust." And I understand. Trust is precious. But trust does not always equal wisdom. Even well-meaning people can unintentionally judge, gossip, or pass along your private matters to others. Especially in extended families, once word gets out that grandpa has savings, or mom owns 2 properties, it travels faster than you can imagine. Let's be real. Money can turn warm hearts cold. It can create jealousy, resentment, and false closeness. You might start noticing someone calls you more often, offers to help you, suggests how you should invest or spend wisely. At first, it feels like care. But look closely. It may be control wrapped in kindness. And there's another danger. Pressure. Once others know about your financial standing, they may feel comfortable asking for loans, favors, or early inheritance. And if you say no, suddenly you're called selfish or stingy. But if you say yes, you might feel used and drained. This emotional manipulation is real. Especially for seniors, who often carry a lifetime of guilt, love, and responsibility for their children and grandchildren. Many seniors feel trapped, torn between helping their family and protecting their future. Let me say this clearly. You do not owe anyone full access to your money story. Your financial decisions, whether big or small, are your private business. And unless you're working with a trusted licensed advisor or lawyer, you don't need to explain your financial history, current savings, or future plans to anyone. Even discussing your pension amount or monthly budget in casual conversation can open doors you may later regret. Because people listen closely. And some remember what you've forgotten you said. Now, let's talk about how to avoid these situations gracefully. If someone asks, "How much did you sell your old house for?" you can simply say, "It was a fair deal for both sides." If they ask, "How much are you leaving the grandkids in your will?" reply with, "We're still deciding the best way to handle things. What matters most is keeping the family united." And if someone starts questioning how you spend your money, kindly but firmly say, "I've worked hard for what I have. I make choices that keep me peaceful and independent." Remember, you don't need to lie. Just learn how to protect your truth. It's not just about avoiding conflict or awkwardness. It's about maintaining your emotional safety. Once you reveal financial details, you can't take them back. And in many families, money talk can leave deep scars that last for years. In fact, as a doctor, I've seen emotional stress caused by financial conversations lead to anxiety, loss of sleep, arguments, and even health problems. Some seniors have ended up isolated from their own families, simply because money was discussed too openly, too soon, or too often. So protect yourself. Hire a professional for your estate planning, talk to a trusted accountant, and keep your financial paperwork organized. But keep those conversations within the circle of professionals, not casual friends or relatives. This is not being secretive. It's being smart. You've worked for decades. You've earned every penny, every asset, and every right to decide how your money is handled. Don't let anyone, no matter how close, make you feel guilty for keeping that private. As we age, our boundaries must become stronger, not looser. Because the fewer people know about your finances, the more power you keep over your life. And most importantly, you stay focused on what truly matters, not numbers or inheritance games, but peace, joy, and dignity. So from now on, let your money speak only to those who are paid to help, and keep your financial life out of family circles, gossip groups, and social settings. It's not about mistrusting people. It's about protecting yourself from a world that sometimes sees seniors as soft targets. Silence is safety. And you deserve to feel safe, financially, emotionally, and spiritually. 2. Never share your next big plan or goal. Let's talk about something that sounds innocent, but can quietly sabotage your peace, progress, and power. Sharing your next big plan too early. Whether you're thinking about moving to a smaller home, changing your will, starting a new routine, donating part of your assets, traveling abroad, or simply cutting ties with certain people, stop yourself from announcing it too soon. Because believe me, not everyone deserves a front row seat to your transformation. After 60, your decisions come from wisdom, not impulse. They come from years of learning, observing, and knowing what does, or doesn't, bring peace into your life. But the moment you speak those decisions out loud to the wrong people, your confidence becomes vulnerable. Why? Because people love to comment, criticize, question, or advise you before you've even taken the first step. They'll say, "Are you sure that's a good idea? But what will people think? At your age, that sounds risky. Wouldn't it be better if you waited?" And suddenly, your excitement turns into anxiety. Your confidence is shaken. You begin to second-guess yourself, not because your plan is bad, but because you invited the wrong voices into your head. And here's the hard truth. Not everyone wants to see you grow or change. Some people are secretly more comfortable when you stay small, predictable, or dependent. The moment you talk about taking control of your money, your time, your space, your legacy, those same people can become uncomfortable or even resentful. Why? Because your courage to change reminds them of their own stagnation. Let me give you an example. I once knew a senior lady, 68 years old, who decided she wanted to sell her big family home and move to a quieter countryside cottage. It was something she had dreamed of for years. She had the funds, she had the plan, and she was emotionally ready. But the moment she told her adult children and extended family, everything changed. She was bombarded with questions. Why would you leave the family house? What if you get sick out there? You're being impulsive. This doesn't make sense. She delayed her move. She grew confused. She even cancelled the plan once. A year later she said to me, "Dr. Rose, I wish I had just done it before telling anyone." Because by trying to get approval, she sacrificed her own freedom. Now, that doesn't mean you should isolate yourself. It means that you should move quietly until the work is done. When your plan is just a seed, protect it like a gardener shields a fragile sprout. Don't leave it exposed to winds of doubt or storms of opinion. Let it grow strong before anyone even knows it exists. If someone asks what you're up to, smile and say, "I'm just focusing on peace these days." Or, "I'm sorting out a few things, but nothing to announce yet." You owe no one the full roadmap of your journey until you're ready to share it on your terms. Here's another reason to keep your plans private. Premature sharing can kill motivation. There's actually psychological research that shows when we talk about our goals too much, our brain mistakes that talk for action. You feel like you've already done something big, so you lose the urgency to actually follow through. That's why many people talk for years about downsizing, writing a book, starting a new lifestyle, traveling, or starting yoga, and never actually do it. They've shared the goal so much that they've talked themselves out of it. So what should you do instead? Write your plan down privately. Reflect. Pray. Meditate. Talk to only one trusted professional if needed, like a lawyer, financial advisor, or coach, but not to 10 people who have opinions without experience. Then, take action in silence. And when the move is made, when the plan is done, and the goal is achieved, let people be surprised. Let them say, "Wow, I didn't know you were doing that." Let your peace, not your announcement, be the proof of your decision. There's deep power in quiet moves. Silent progress. Unannounced transformations. You deserve to live in a way that prioritizes your well-being, not their expectations. Because at this stage in life, the only person who needs to be convinced is you. So protect your plans. Let them blossom in peace. And when they bloom, the world will see the flower, not the struggle of the seed. You owe no explanations. Only results. Move in silence. And let your peace be loud. 3. Never share your family's dirty laundry. Let's talk about a sensitive but important topic, family issues. Specifically, why you should never share your family's dirty laundry with others. Now, I know how tempting it can be. You've been hurt, disappointed, maybe even betrayed by your own blood. Sometimes, it feels like you just need to talk to someone, just to release the pain or make sense of it all. And that's human. That's natural. But here's what I've learned through decades of clinical work and life experience. Venting family problems to outsiders rarely helps, and often hurts you more. Especially after 60, you carry with you a lifetime of memories, struggles, relationships, and regrets. Some of your deepest wounds may have come from inside your own home. Your children, your siblings, your in-laws, your spouse. You might think sharing those stories helps lighten the load. But the truth is, airing your family's flaws does not lead to healing. Instead, it often leads to shame, gossip, judgment, and regret. Let's say you confide in a neighbor about how your son doesn't call you anymore, or how your daughter married someone you don't like, or how your grandchildren never visit. You feel heard in the moment. But what happens next? That neighbor now sees your family in a certain way. Maybe they start telling others. Did you hear what happened with her kids? Poor thing, she raised them and look how they treat her now. And just like that, your private family pain becomes public entertainment. Even worse, sometimes people pretend to be concerned, but really they're judging you silently. They think, if her children treat her that way, maybe she did something wrong. And instead of getting comfort, you get whispers behind your back. This is especially dangerous in tight-knit communities, senior homes, religious gatherings, or extended family circles where news spreads quickly, and rarely with kindness. Another problem. People don't forget what you tell them. Even if you later reconcile with that family member, your child, your spouse, or your sibling, the person you confided in still remembers everything you said in anger or sadness. Now imagine inviting them all to the same dinner table. There's tension. There's awkwardness. There's judgment in the air. Because words, once spoken, cannot be taken back. That's why I always say, protect your family in public. Heal your family in private. That doesn't mean you ignore pain. It doesn't mean you suffer in silence. But it does mean you must choose your listener carefully. If you're struggling with family issues, speak to a licensed therapist or counselor, a spiritual guide or elder, a private journal, God through prayer. These are safe places, silent, sacred, and non-judgmental. Now, I want to speak to something many seniors feel but don't always express: betrayal from your own children. If your child has disappointed you, it cuts deeper than any other pain. But sharing those details with everyone, your siblings, your friends, or your community, only reopens the wound again and again. Instead of healing, you replay the trauma. Even worse, sometimes your story gets twisted. People may blame you. They may blame your child. But either way, the hurt only grows. And here's another reason to keep your family matters private. You never know what tomorrow brings. That child who doesn't call may show up tomorrow with tears and apology. That sibling who hurt you may be going through silent pain you don't know. That relative who seems selfish may be struggling more than they show. People change. Families evolve. Time softens hearts. But if you've exposed your family's flaws too publicly, reconciliation becomes harder. Because now there's shame. There's embarrassment. There's fear of what others will say. So instead of pouring your pain into the ears of gossip, pour it into a place that can actually help you heal. And remember, every family has issues. Yes, every single one. Some just know how to keep those issues within their walls, while others expose them for the world to analyze. Be the strong one. Be the wise one. Protect your family's name, even when they've let you down. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Because when you talk less about your family's failures, you give yourself space to focus on your own healing, not their behavior. You maintain your dignity. You hold your head high. You live with honor. And that's something no argument, betrayal, or disappointment can ever take away from you. So from this day on, if you ever feel tempted to talk about who hurt you in your family, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, will this help me heal, or just reopen the wound? If it won't help, don't share it. Your silence can be the strongest form of self-respect. And your peace. That's the real inheritance you deserve to pass on. 4. Never share your acts of kindness. There's a beautiful saying that I always carry in my heart. Do good and throw it into the sea. What does that mean? It means that when you do something kind, you don't need to announce it to the world. You don't need applause. You don't need credit. Because true kindness is silent, sacred, and humble. And that brings us to our fourth powerful point. Never share your acts of kindness, especially as a senior. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But Dr. Rose, isn't it okay to share what I've done if it inspires others? Yes, there are moments when telling a story can uplift. But more often than not, talking too much about your good deeds doesn't lift others. It opens you up to criticism, jealousy, or manipulation. Let me explain. Many seniors I've met over the years tell me things like, I gave money to help my nephew through college, and he never even thanked me. I raised my grandkids while their parents were struggling. No one remembers that now. I helped my neighbor during her hardest time, and she doesn't even talk to me anymore. And then they say something heartbreaking. Sometimes I regret helping. That regret doesn't come from the act itself. It comes from the lack of recognition, the lack of respect, and sometimes the feeling of being used. But here's the truth I remind them, and I remind you. Kindness loses its purity when it seeks validation. You gave because it was right. You helped because you had the strength. You served because your heart was moved. That alone is enough. And if no one claps for you, if no one tells your story, if no one says, thank you, that's okay. Because the right hand doesn't need to tell the left what it's doing. The moment we start repeating our good deeds to others, especially with a tone of disappointment or pride, we shift from selfless giving to subtle boasting. And let me be very clear, this doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. We all want to be seen. We all want to be appreciated. But the problem is, when you talk too much about your generosity, 3 things happen. 1. You become emotionally vulnerable. When people know what you've given, they begin to expect more. You might hear things like, well, if you helped her, why not me? You always do so much. What's a little more? You're such a kind person. I knew you'd say yes. Suddenly, your generosity becomes a burden. People see you as a giver, and only a giver. They don't ask how you are. They just come with their hands out. That's not appreciation. That's entitlement. 2. Others may judge your intentions. Sadly, in today's world, even good deeds are met with suspicion. You might be helping someone from a pure heart, but if you talk about it, others might say, she's just trying to look good. He wants everyone to think he's a hero. There's always a reason behind his kindness. This is especially common in family dynamics, where bitterness or rivalry already exists. You do something good, and instead of gratitude, you receive silent resentment. 3. You lose the spiritual reward. If you're a person of faith, as many of our viewers are, you know that God sees what's done in secret, and He multiplies it in His own time. But when we start seeking praise from people, we sometimes lose that divine reward. Because now we're being fed by human applause, not spiritual peace. Let me offer you something practical. The next time you do something generous, whether it's financial, emotional, or physical, say nothing. Not because it's a secret, but because it's sacred. Let your kindness be between you and the person you helped. You and God. You and your quiet sense of dignity. If someone later finds out, and they thank you, That's a bonus. But don't wait for it. Your reward is the peace that comes from doing the right thing, even when no one sees. And if you're thinking, but Dr. Rose, I've done so much, and no one ever appreciates me. I hear you. Truly, I do. And I want to say this gently, but firmly. You don't need their applause. Because your legacy is already written in the lives you touched. They may forget the meals you cooked, the loans you gave, the nights you stayed awake, the years you sacrificed. But you won't forget. And God never forgets. Let your life speak for itself. Let your light shine, quietly, steadily, like a candle in the dark. And remember, a tree doesn't announce its fruit. It just grows, and blesses those who come near. So grow in silence. Give in silence. And let your reward be the peace that comes from knowing you did good. And that's enough. 5. Never share your weaknesses and fears. Let's now turn to something deeply personal. Something we all feel, but don't always know how to protect. Our fears. Our weaknesses. Our vulnerable spots. As a doctor and as someone who spent decades counseling seniors, I've learned this truth the hard way. Not everyone deserves to know where you hurt. Yes, we all face struggles. We fear illness. We worry about memory loss. We feel anxious about money, about being alone, about becoming a burden. And often, we long for someone, just one person, to truly listen. To hold our fears gently. To comfort us without judgment. But the truth is, not everyone who listens has good intentions. Some people listen just to collect information. Some listen so they can appear caring. And some, unfortunately, listen only to use your words against you later. That's why, especially after 60, you must be selective with whom you share your vulnerabilities. Because when you show someone where your cracks are, you're trusting them not to break you. Let me explain why this matters so much. Weakness, once exposed, can be weaponized. You may tell someone, I'm scared of getting sick, or I feel so lonely these days, or I worry that I've lost my purpose. And they may nod. They may act kind. But later, they might say, she's not strong enough to handle this. He's too emotional, don't depend on him. She's falling apart. Something's wrong with her. Suddenly, your honesty becomes a label, a reputation. And you find yourself being treated like someone less capable, less sharp, less valuable. Even in families, this happens. Once you open up too much, some relatives start making decisions for you, without asking. They may think they're helping. But in truth, they're reacting to the version of you they created in their minds, based on what you confessed in a vulnerable moment. Fear is not weakness. But misplaced trust is. You are allowed to feel afraid. You are allowed to have moments of doubt, grief, or sadness. But not everyone has earned the right to hear those private emotions. Because here's the harsh truth. Most people are not trained to handle your emotional truth. They either judge it, ignore it, or compare it to their own. Have you ever shared a fear, only to hear, oh, that's nothing. Wait till you hear what I've been through. You're just overthinking. At your age, you should be stronger than that. How did that make you feel? Dismissed. Invisible. Ashamed, maybe. That's why you must protect your soul like a sacred space. So where do you turn when fear overwhelms you? You don't bottle it up, but you channel it wisely. You can write in a private journal. You can speak with a trained therapist or counselor. You can pray, meditate, or talk to your Creator, who never judges, only listens. You can share gently with a friend who has consistently earned your trust through years of respect and loyalty. But avoid casual conversations with people who haven't proven they're safe. And especially avoid social media venting, where your pain becomes public property. Here's another layer to this. When you constantly speak about your fears, you give them more power. Fear feeds on attention. And while it's healthy to acknowledge it, It's dangerous to obsess over it or invite others to feed it with their worry. Instead of saying, "I'm afraid I'll lose everything," say, "I'm taking steps to stay secure." Instead of, "I feel alone," say, "I'm working on building meaningful connections." This is not pretending. It's protecting your emotional boundaries. You're not lying. You're guarding the most fragile parts of your soul. What about physical weakness? Many seniors struggle with declining health. And yes, it's okay to ask for help. But be strategic about how and to whom you ask. Because some people see your physical weakness as an invitation to make decisions without you. Talk about you behind your back. View you as incapable of independence. Let them see your dignity, not your defeat. Let them witness your strength, not in muscles, but in mindset. You don't need to prove you're unbreakable. But you do need to show that your spirit is not for sale, not to pity, not to gossip, not to control. Here's what I want you to remember. Your fears are real. Your emotions are valid. But your healing begins when you guard your soul. Think of yourself like a precious house. Would you let just anyone walk in and inspect the drawers, open the closets, read your private letters? No. So don't let just anyone roam through the chambers of your mind and heart either. Your privacy is your protection. Your silence is your sanctuary. And when you do share with someone who won't use your weakness as a weapon, but will hold it like a flower, gently and with love. Because that, my dear Zenior, is what you truly deserve. 6. Never share your past mistakes. Let's talk about something we've all carried with us. Sometimes silently, sometimes painfully. Our past mistakes. You see, by the time we reach 60, 70 or beyond, we've lived through decades of decisions. Some wise, others not so much. We've hurt others, been hurt ourselves. We've trusted the wrong people. We've said things we regret. We've made financial missteps. We've broken promises, taken wrong turns, and missed opportunities. And while we may be wiser now, the past still lingers, in our minds, in our hearts, and sometimes, on the tip of our tongue. But here's the message I want to lovingly deliver to you today. Never feel pressured to share all your past mistakes with others. Not your friends. Not your neighbors. Not even your children, unless there's a specific reason and a safe space. Because your past, while it shaped you, is not public property. And your mistakes. They are not conversation starters. They are lessons, deeply personal and carefully learned. Let's unpack why this is so important. 1. People rarely handle your truth with the care it deserves. When you confess a past mistake, you're being vulnerable. You're opening a door that took you years to close. But not everyone will respond with grace. Some people might judge you. Some might use it to feel superior. Others might repeat it, twist it, or weaponize it during moments of conflict. You may hear things like, "Well, no wonder you're struggling now. You always made bad decisions. I can't believe you did that. You never told me this before. What else are you hiding?" And suddenly, your honesty becomes ammunition. You opened your heart to find healing, and instead, you found shame. 2. Constantly reliving the past can reopen old wounds. Sometimes we think that by telling our story over and over, we'll finally be free of it. But in reality, repetition can lead to rumination. You start focusing on what you did wrong. You beat yourself up again. You relive the pain, the regret, the consequences, and it weighs on your spirit. At this stage in life, you don't need to rehearse your failures. You need to focus on your healing and your legacy. Reflecting is good. But sharing without purpose? That can keep you stuck in cycles of self-blame. 3. Your past doesn't define you. One of the biggest lies we're told, especially as we age, is that the mistakes of our youth or middle years will haunt us forever. That once you mess up, you carry that label for life. That's simply not true. You are not your worst decision. You are not your divorce. You are not the job you lost, the money you wasted, the child you argued with, or the friendship that fell apart. You are the person who survived all of it. Who grew. Who learned. Who made it here, stronger, wiser, and still full of purpose. And you don't owe anyone a full confession just to prove you've changed. 4. Sharing mistakes can shift how others see you, forever. Let's say you tell your adult child that you once struggled with addiction, or that you were unfaithful in your marriage, or that you made poor financial choices in your youth. Even if they seem supportive, even if they say, "I understand," a part of their perception might shift. Not because they don't love you, but because the image they held of you is now changed, and not always in a way that builds deeper respect. Sometimes, less is more. Let them love the version of you they know today, the one who's grown, healed, and moved forward. Because not everyone needs access to your emotional history. So when is it okay to share your past? When it serves a purpose. When it helps someone else heal. When you're in a safe, respectful, and mature space, such as a one-on-one moment with a grandchild who's struggling and needs guidance. A support group where everyone shares with trust and confidentiality. A therapy session where the goal is healing, not judgment. A spiritual conversation with someone who sees your heart, not your history. Even then, share only what's necessary. You don't need to pour out your whole story. Just the part that brings light to another person's path. How do you respond when others press for details about your past? Be gentle, but firm. If someone asks, "Didn't you used to have a drinking problem?" You can say, "That was a chapter I've closed. I've grown since then." If they ask, "Why don't you talk about your first marriage?" You can reply, "Because I've made peace with it, and that's enough." You don't owe anyone an explanation. Just boundaries. What matters now is who you are today. You are not the sum of your regrets. You are the strength that rose from them. You are the grace that kept going. You are the wisdom that others seek. So hold your past with dignity. Let it stay in the rearview mirror, glanced at occasionally, but never your main focus. You've earned the right to live in the light, not the shadow. And remember, your scars are not your story. Your healing is. My dear Zenior, take a deep breath with me right now. Feel your chest rise and fall. That gentle rhythm. It's life reminding you that you are still here, still growing, still evolving. And that means one important truth. You are not done yet. Not done learning. Not done protecting your inner peace. And certainly not done building a legacy that's rooted in wisdom, not wounds. Over the course of this powerful journey, we've walked through 9 things you should never share lightly with others, especially after 60. And now, I want to help you carry these lessons deep into your heart, like armor for your soul. Because here's the truth that society rarely says out loud. Just because you're older doesn't mean people will automatically respect your boundaries. You have to teach them how to treat you. And that teaching begins with what you choose to reveal, and what you choose to protect. You are not being secretive. You are being wise. Let's make one thing clear. This video wasn't about becoming suspicious, paranoid, or emotionally cold. No, quite the opposite. It was about helping you stay warm, kind, and generous, without getting burned. Because too many seniors, especially those over 65, fall into emotional traps. Oversharing because of loneliness. Confiding in people who haven't earned that trust. Feeling obligated to explain themselves to everyone. Giving away their personal power, one private truth at a time. And the result? They feel used, misunderstood, violated, and worst of all, they begin to lose faith in people altogether. But that doesn't have to be your story. Starting today, you can build new boundaries that protect your heart without hardening it. How? Here's a simple mantra I teach to many of my older patients and friends. Not everyone gets a front row seat to my life. And that's okay. Just like a theater, your life has sections. Only a few should sit up close. Those people are the ones who listen without judgment. Keep your confidence. Uplift your dreams. Give advice gently, not aggressively. Walk with you, not ahead of you or behind. The rest. Let them observe from the balcony. You don't need to shout your plans to them. You don't need to explain your struggles to them. You don't even need to defend your choices to them. They can watch. And you can keep moving forward. Silence is not emptiness. It's power. Let me tell you something sacred. Some of the most peaceful seniors I've ever known were not the loudest, or the most open, but the ones who had mastered the art of silent strength. They smiled often, spoke with intention, shared when it mattered, and carried themselves with an elegant mystery that made people admire, not pry. You can do the same. You don't owe anyone your past mistakes, family drama, relationship struggles, bank account status, medical fears, future plans. Instead, give people the best version of your energy, not the most private parts of your soul. Final reminder. You deserve peace. In a world where talking has become constant, where every thought is tweeted, posted, or forwarded, privacy has become a rare treasure. But as you age, it becomes even more necessary, because your emotional peace now determines your blood pressure, sleep quality, mood stability, immune strength, cognitive clarity. Yes, studies confirm it again and again. The more peace you protect, the healthier your body and brain become. So I say this not just as a doctor, but as someone who deeply cares. Protecting your private life isn't selfish. It's sacred self-care. Let's recap the 9 things to never share freely after 60. 1. Your income and finances, because not everyone wants to see you succeed. 2. 3. Your relationship troubles, because others may feed your fire, not calm it. 4. 5. Your past mistakes, because your growth matters more than your history. 6. 7. Your family problems, because gossip solves nothing. 8. 9. Your fears and weaknesses, because few know how to hold them gently. 10. 11. Your health updates to everyone, because some will only pity, not support. 12. 13. Your acts of kindness, because true goodness doesn't seek applause. 14. 15. Your long-term dreams, because they need protection before they bloom. 16. 17. Your future plans, because sharing too early drains your momentum. 18. These are the sacred rooms of your inner house. Don't leave the doors wide open. Guard them. Choose who gets the key. Your life is still yours. Yes, you may be over 60, 70, even 80. But you are not finished. In fact, you may just be entering the wisest, most intentional, most peaceful years of your life. But only if you choose peace over performance, privacy over pressure, protection over people-pleasing. So tonight, when you lay your head on your pillow, feel proud, not for what you shared, but for what you protected. Because in this noisy world, your quiet strength speaks volumes. I'm Dr. Linda Rose, and if no one has told you today, you are wise, you are worthy, and your life is still beautifully unfolding. Stay strong, stay centered, and above all, stay quietly powerful.